Hey guys, Adam here, and in this video I'm going to show you 5 reasons why you should learn to read and write using musical notation as a church drummer. Let's do it. Before we get into the reasons, if you're a church drummer or an aspiring church drummer and haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time I post a new video, because this channel was made specifically for you. I've taught many drummers who used to only play by ear, and I've seen firsthand that teaching them to read gives them such a better understanding of rhythm, and they see improvements in many areas of their playing. And so we're not just talking about the ability to read, because it affects a lot of different areas of your playing. And once they start to understand it, I often hear my students say things like, "I should have learned this a long time ago." So let's dive right in with reason number 1. Okay, so reason number 1, reading and writing helps you practice more effectively. When you only play by ear, you're only able to decipher what you're listening to with one of your senses, your ears. You'll be able to learn and understand what is being played much easier if you can use your sight and write things down. Once you have the groove or feel that you're trying to learn written down, you can then more effectively practice it using proven practice strategies. One of the most important practice strategies that many drummers overlook is simply slowing things down to make even the most difficult grooves and fills much easier to play. When you're strictly trying to learn something by ear, the natural tendency is to practice new things at the same tempo that we're hearing it. But that's not the most effective and best way to spend our time. In other words, playing things slower than how you're hearing it is extremely difficult. But that is often what is necessary to being able to master new vocabulary on the drums. Have you ever tried to learn a new fill or groove only to keep making the same mistakes over and over? That's because you're probably practicing it at a tempo that you're just not ready for yet. Before you know it, you've learned how to play it wrong because you keep making the same mistake. If you learn to read and write music, you will save yourself so much time because you'll have a much lower chance of making mistakes because it's all spelled out for you right on the page, and you'll be able to practice it at a much slower tempo. Once you can play it correctly several times in a row at a slow tempo, then you can start working on speeding it up. Before we move on to the next reason, do you think being able to read and write using musical notation will automatically make you a better drummer? Why or why not? Post your answer in the comments below. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. Okay, so reason number 2. Reading and writing will allow you to stop having to rely on your memory to learn songs. This one is pretty obvious, but if you only play by ear, the only way you can learn songs or set lists is to memorize it. This is just not practical when you have several songs in your church set list. Let's be honest, a lot of modern worship songs sound similar and can easily run together in your head. There have been several times where I've accidentally played the tom groove to the first song in my set list when it was actually for the second song. Imagine having to learn a long speech without being able to read or write. You would probably have to listen to that recording of that speech 50 times over and over, and you still might not be able to replicate it exactly. It's the same for music. I don't want you to have to be that drummer who has to listen to the song on repeat all week long just because your worship leader put a new song on the schedule. Reading music and being able to write music down will remedy this so you don't have to rely on your memory alone. Okay, so reason number 3. This next one is closely related to the second one, but reading and writing will give you a framework to enhance what you hear when you're trying to play by ear. And don't get me wrong, playing by ear is a very important skill, and I think both skills are equally important, being able to read and write and also hear by ear. Logic tells us that whenever we can use more of our senses to interact with a specific kind of content, we'll have a better understanding. If you have an understanding of different note and note values, subdivisions, you'll be able to not only hear the rhythm you're trying to replicate more accurately, you'll also be able to visualize what it looks like in your head. Then you can just write it down. On top of using our ears and eyes to decipher the music, having an understanding of notes and note values will enable you to count complex rhythms. I'm talking about counting much more than just the main pulse of the music, so that you can replicate the rhythm more accurately. What you hear, the visuals of the notes, and the counting all work together to help you more accurately decipher what you're hearing, and ultimately it enhances your ear because you have a clear vocabulary of what you're hearing. Okay, so reason number 4, reading and writing gives you boundaries and limits to work with when being creative. Every drummer should have the goal to become more creative on the drums, and a lot of the times it's easy to get overwhelmed by it because many of us might approach it with a anything goes perspective. However, being creative is much easier when you have boundaries and limits put in place to work with. Reading and writing music will give you those limits to be creative and help you come up with ideas that will fit within the context of the music that you're playing. For example, if you're trying to create a fill for a song, you should first figure out the time signature of that song and then work within the limitations that that time signature presents. Once you understand reading and writing, you'll understand how many notes can fit within your time signature, and then orchestrating your fill becomes much more about what voicing to use rather than how many notes are going to fit. The other benefit is that you'll know exactly when to start and end your fills so they are executed in the most musical way possible. Okay, so the final reason number 5, reading and writing gives you a much better foundation to teach others. For those of you who play the drums in church, you may know that capable musicians can be hard to come by. So I would argue that we all need to be doing our part to train up the next generation of musicians for the Lord. Teaching others how to play without reading and writing is very difficult because you don't have any ability to write things down for your student to practice. This means that you'll have to show them everything drum by drum and note by note, and the likelihood of them being able to remember everything you taught them in between lessons is very low. This is going to put a lot of strain on your memory as well because you have to remember what you taught them without being able to write down the specifics of what you've been over already. There are many more reasons and benefits to learning to read music, but I didn't want to make this video too long. If you strictly play drums by ear, I would love to be able to help you master the skill of reading and writing music, so you can start experiencing all of the benefits we've been over and many more. If you want to learn more of how I can help you, click the link in the description to watch a short video I've made just for you. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.